The X factor in design. What is it that really makes a mall click? Design innovation, the X factor that adds panache to your shopping center destination and makes all the difference. That's what our next session is all about. Let's put our hands together and welcome on stage our panelists. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Jeremy Salmon, Chairman, Asia Pacific Board, Broadway Malyan, Global Architecture, Urbanization and Designs Practice. Please welcome Mr. Anu Bhartaria, Chairman and Managing Director, World Trade Park. Let's hear from Mr. M.A. Mehboob, Director, Highlight Builders. A warm welcome to Mr. Pramod Ranjan Dwivedi, Head of Marketing, Ambuja Realty, City Centre Malls. Please welcome Mr. Sanjeev Mehra, Vice President, Quest Mall, CESC Properties. A warm welcome to Shibani Jain, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Buyer Design. And let's put our hands together and welcome our moderator, Mr. Vishal Meerchandani, Chief Executive Officer, Retail and Commercial, Brigade Enterprises.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm delighted to head up and provoke some debate amongst this panel with a very quick 10-minute slot talking about the X factor. It's interesting, again, I think for me, that there's such a focus on design and design innovation. Reading very deliberately into the sort of title of this when we were sort of thinking and preparing of it, I really caught the kind of the text, the X factor to add the panache to your shopping centre destination, this idea of adding to something. And so to sort of start the debate, I've got a case study for you to look at, which is really about this idea of the before and the after transition. But before doing that, again, it's kind of an important point to make. I think that the idea of the design and the designer, and there are a number of designers amongst my colleagues in the panel, but not all of us are designers, is this notion of innovation and creativity in itself coming through the whole of the team. It's a kind of a design creation leadership in this need for innovation, and the creation coming principally through a commercial vision. And it comes back to this point of the customer. We talk about the X factor, and I think if there is one thing that's consistent in retailers, there is no one-size-fits-all. And as a designer, I know I'm always responding to a brief provided to me by the idea of the customer experience and by my colleagues around the design team and in the client team. And I think really when you're looking for the kind of the design innovation, this X factor, this panache, for me it's always focused on the customer. What do they aspire to become? And I think principally if you're trying to address and serve the customer as they are now, you're kind of, yeah, it's useful, you're providing something useful for them now, but you're kind of not leaving this space of innovation for what do they aspire to become. And principally, how are you then going to help them to get there? So again, the case study is really a renovation of a project or a repositioning of a project. And why reposition? Well, principally in this instance, the innovation is demanded by a more competitive market. This is a particular project in Italy where newer malls were being built in the area, but also the second demand on the innovation is the customer. The customers themselves, they were changing, their aspirations were changing. And if you look at this, I mean, this is a very tired utilitarian shopping destination, if you want to use the word very loosely. You can see the kind of the horror of the before. It's a utility mall. It kind of served a customer that no longer existed. And certainly within its interior spaces, it had led to no aspiration. There's no lifestyle. I could not see myself reflected somehow in the images of this shopping centre. And so, yes, it was a decorative repositioning, but it somehow was led by the aspirations of where the client, the customer base that was anticipated to be there, where they were going to want to go and spend their time. You can see throughout the decorative quality, the kind of dysfunctional graphics, the multiplicity of kind of characterizations in there. So yes, it was a functional replanning of the mall, and there are some fundamentals about the circulation before and after and creating routes of exploration, but it's really more about the brand issue and pitching the brand somewhere about where this new customer aspired to be. And it was about sense of place. The customers were coming from Venice. Venice is all about the waterscape. It's all about the qualities of the water, the reflective nature of the water, and it's about Venetian glass and about the quality of the light coming through those. So all those qualities tend to kind of help provide the basis for a design maneuver, along with a change of name and a change of branding. Valet Center loosely translates as the center of worth, of value. And this provided the palette and the background then to start applying things to a building, to kind of discover where the panache was going to come and make that change. Again, going through separate parts of the scheme, through the entrance areas, even exploring what we were going to do with the car park. If you kind of reflected to that first image of the way the car parking was, just everything grey, everything monotone, nothing aspirational. And the transformation then in the entrance area, just in terms of its material quality, but also its positioning, its level of sophistication, if you like. The quality of the light coming into the spaces, even doing strange things in the mall, like putting deliberate obstacles in the way, just to kind of create that sudden surprise and that sort of difference. Something that would create that distinct change from where it was before. The transition in the color tone from the floorscapes that were generally grey and monotone to in very punctually, in places within the mall, putting in some kind of color burst and color sort of pop. Again, elevating the mall and thinking about the ceiling. Even when we couldn't put roof lights in, we're trying to bring illumination into the mall areas. Okay. So again, a complete transformation of the building. And again, something that worked quite successfully in identifying and with this aspiring customer profile. Okay. Light, reflection, shade, ambience. It's all of these kind of qualitative things that are now coming in to create a qualitative experience. And again, the new customer was a family-oriented customer. So it's about kind of providing a forum for families to come. So again, the washroom is fundamentally important that they became part of that experience. Very vibrant, very bright, baby change areas, something that had a certain sense of the shock of the new as well. I suppose if you want to be very commercial in those terms, suddenly you went from an underperforming mall that had probably a customer base, but they didn't want to come here, to a place which was starting to attract international multiple tenants that didn't want to come. They weren't identified with this place. And you kind of know, you don't follow the brands in terms of retail design, but you kind of know that when they feel you can come to your scheme, you know you've kind of hit something. You know that change has been successful because they perceive it to be successful and that there's going to be customers in there. So yes, design innovation. And I think the topic of today is about design innovation. But I go back to that first point. It's about embracing innovation in a much wider sense across the team and giving it that customer focus. So with that, I think, I'll pass you across to the team.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the wonderful presentation. So I think we can start the discussion now on our subject, design innovation. We all know what sort of importance that holds in shopping center development and shopping center performance in the long term. From our group perspective, that's the Brigade Group, we've built a mall called Orion Mall in Bangalore, and there has been certain thought that we have put into the designing of the mall, and we've seen the effect, the impact, the positive impact of the good designing aspects and innovation that we have been able to provide in Orion Mall in Bangalore. And we also know some of the gaps that we've not been able to fill and the impact of not having completed some part of the innovation. So I think there is a learning that we keep picking on as we move along, and therefore I think a panel of this stature will only help us understand the process and the actual subject of design innovation in shopping centers. And I will first actually kick off the questioning first with Shivani, as a lady in the group. Shivani comes from a fantastic background of design. She's got her own firm, as you all know. And this question that I'm putting across is to actually all panelists, but we'll start off with Shivani first. The fundamental thing is to understand what is the core purpose of design innovation in shopping center development. I think that's a fundamental question that we must understand. What is the core purpose? And then we can move to the next level.
I think that the designer, of course, shopping as an experience is an important factor, and you have to factor in all the things that help in shopping. But the designer's role is to really look beyond the shopping experience and see what is it that beyond shopping needs to be done in a mall or in a shopping center. There are so many social aspects, community aspects, cultural aspects that come into play when you're creating a mall. A mall is no longer a place where you just come to shop. You come with your family, you hang out. It's a leisure place, it's a place for relaxation. It's a place where you want to spend the day maybe. So I think a designer has to look beyond the shopping experience and really look at it in terms of creating an experience for the people who visit the mall and how to engage the person, not just in the shopping, but in other non-commercial activities that actually accentuate and help shopping. For example, a simple art or an interactive gallery that people can browse through, or a place where old people can sit, because India is still a very community lifestyle, would be factors that every design person should be thinking of when they design a mall. So
I think we can ask Sanjeev to also address that.
Yeah. Now, this is probably the third mall that I've built and been part with CSE Properties. As far as the design is concerned, first of all, it's very important that it is functional. I think I'm not going to talk about the fundamentals of how we expect retail to work. I think that is sacrosanct. If that fails, then the main importance of why we make a shopping mall will fail. So I'm not going to touch about that. But it's more important to know who you're making the mall for. If we just think about it as a shopping center, then we are going to fail. I don't believe anymore that you are going to make these centers which will, make you shop. It is actually going to indulge you to spend. And if that's the reason, then I think there's a huge wow factor as a creative element to be put in. More importantly, I think the person has to be comfortable. The chi has to be very good, the feng shui. So all these things are going to come to create it. And if he's not comfortable or she's not comfortable, then no matter what you do, they're not going to spend your money. So, like in the food business, if it don't look good, it's not going to taste good. So I always believe that we should follow the same example with this design.
Mehboob?
Yeah. Basically, we are creating a marketplace for customers to come in and the retailers to sell their product. But today's environment, to happen that we have to think beyond the routine style of shopping centers to the earlier days mall. After having experienced the mall culture, maybe 2 decades in India, customers are now expecting a lot more from the malls. Basically, they are spending a lot of time, many hours in the mall. And the convenience factor. They expect a lot of convenience right from the entry to the mall, parking, through escalators, or then access to the stores, other facilities. We have to really take care of these aspects in the design. Otherwise, when the competition comes, or for getting a repeat footfall from the same group, we certainly have to look the convenience factors very seriously into the design. Thank you.
Good evening. I represent a company called Ambuja Realty. We are having 5 shopping malls which are operational in eastern part of the country. And one has completed 11 years. The last one was completed in the last financial year only. For us, the core purpose is customer's delight, not for the sake of saying, but it has been the part of the design in itself. Like when we design the product, we take into consideration the local aspects of the location. When I say local aspect, because all our malls are, the core purpose of the mall was that, like we have always created a public square wherein people can come and do several activities. But the local flavor was given in a different way in all the different locations, whether it was Salt Lake, Newtown, Haldia, Raipur, Siliguri. In today's market, when we all know that the customers are having the convenience of shopping through online, the only thing which can bring them back to the shopping malls more frequently is the experience. How do we ensure the rich experience so that this customer is clicking and researching online, but when it comes to buying, he has to come back to the mall, and that is where the experience counts. So what we have designed in our mall, we have given a lot of natural aspects to our mall. All our malls are having this open and closed concept. When I'm saying open, because it gives you a lot of natural light, natural ventilation, and we have created water bodies and other things. So people somehow love to interact with nature, and that is where the loyalty is built. We have seen that the loyalty is built easily when you are having these aspects in the mall. All our malls, what we did is that we have created a large public square, we call it Celebration Square. And the size of this varies from 25,000 square feet to 75,000 square feet. And we organize events which are around food, festival, entertainment, culture. That gives customers reason to come back to us every weekend. And the best example of that was, like, as you are aware, the last week when this entire Himalayan range was hit badly with this earthquake. Last weekend we organized this Tibet festival, wherein we organized a lot of cultural activities with respect to the hills and Tibetan culture, yak dance, snow dance and all that. The mall was packed. People were not having much, people were not bothered because they didn't want to miss this opportunity. So these things we have experienced, that if you give reasons for the customer to connect with the local aspect and the local connect, because there has to be a sense of belongingness, community, they will come back to the malls more frequently and they'll be loyal to your place.
Jeremy, what do you think what do you think is the core purpose of innovation design?
This is it's a kind of loaded question, really, for a designer. The role of design, because it kind of comes back to sort of what is one's purpose. And I think the first thing to say, having said that, is the role of design, certainly within retail work, is not the designer. The designer is not at all in the foreground and needs to be sort of pulled back. I agree with the point about functionality. I think the purpose of design is functionality. But in a way, functionality is a given. If you're not achieving functionality, you've got the wrong designer. But also, innovation is about challenging what is the function. And I think a lot of the conversations we've had today about what is retail, what are the boundaries of retail, what is the function that we're prescribing, and I think that's the territory for innovation. If I'm to put it in a word of what is the role of design, what is my purpose, and I think it's, one word comes to mind really, and I think it's differentiation. It's a convenient word because it kind of works, it works for my clients, because we're talking about a very competitive environment where differentiating one shopping destination product to another is important. But I like it in the sense that it appeals to the sensation of the quality of life one is giving to a customer. You're giving them a differentiated experience. You're giving them something very different, hopefully unique, something that they value, and something that they've not seen, perceived, or done before. And I think this word of differentiation, being the purpose of design, is very important.
Fantastic. So differentiator is, differentiation is one of the outcomes of design innovation. What are your thoughts on that? Will you please repeat it? The subject of design innovation and how it impacts or creates differentiation for a shopping center.
Design innovation, it's a very, very wide subject. And, the very fact is that design is what is not never bound by rules. And the differentiation what a design can do to a place or a mall in particular, as we are discussing, is practically, it can virtually change the functioning. It can elevate a city, it can elevate a society in its lifestyle. It has a far-reaching effects. It's not only functioning of business, it has got effects into the daily lifestyle of a people. And that's what is the power of design. Design can change how you live. Design can institute new things about business. For example, when we are discussing shopping malls, a shopping mall is to be designed for what? It is a place for people to fulfill their aspirations. As somebody said, that culture of the place has to be kept in mind. But growth and progress have to be blended with it. So if we are able to blend growth, progress, and secure the culture of the place, we will be able to fulfill the aspirations, at the same time impose values and systems into the society, and create platforms which can really do good business, create platforms which can satisfy and distribute happiness among the people, so that they feel proud about it. A visitor who comes to a place, who comes to a design shopping mall or some place, he feels when he enters that place, there's a sense of pride which is to come in. And if we are able to, in our design, able to transfer that to that customer, I think we are doing justice to it. And that would really help the business of the mall, that will really help creating environment. And nowadays, there is a social responsibility about design also. Because design as such is not limited only for look and feel and aesthetics. It is also related to energy. It is related to what he said about ventilation and all. Is very important, because we are looking for now a generation in which we should be aiming at green malls. And that is going to be the subject, that malls and centers which are being developed should have green certifications. They should be able to, in our designs, we should incorporate things which are able to contribute to the society. So the designer has a twofold responsibility: fulfilling aspirations, flamboyance, and serving the society.
Fantastic. So Shivani, you own and you run your own design firm. What are your inspirations that actually drive you to innovate, especially within the context of shopping centers?
I feel that culture can be a pretty interesting distinguishing factor. For example, I went to Santa Fe in USA, and many of their malls had this Pueblo's revival architecture with these beautiful mud homes, low slung, showing the sky, and miles and miles of these mud, dark brown houses. And the shopping experience was so delightful because it was not just shopping, it was also a cultural experience. And I think it can be a deeply distinguishing factor, whether you're from Maharashtra or Gujarat or Rajasthan. Every state is different. And I think one should take inspiration from local materials, local artisans, local crafts, local arts, and integrate that into the design of a mall. I think that would be my inspiration.
Jeremy, your views on the inspiration, Jeremy, for you? What are your inspirations?
I tend to find that my inspiration comes through circumstance. There are overriding general aspirations about providing quality of life and service and something, and finding meaning as a designer in what you do. But I find innovation is an interesting topic in itself. I mean, what provokes innovation? Because generally innovation involves risk, and so most people are risk averse. So my inspiration comes out of some of the challenges, and the challenges tend to be the found problem. There was an interesting conversation we had over lunch about the idea you can never find the perfect site. The site's always the wrong shape. There's always something in there that provokes a response. There's a problem. And it's always that problem which provokes the innovation. It forces you to take the risk, and you find the inspiration within that response. An example of, you'd find it when you're doing a lot of repositioning work or a lot of renovation work where necessarily something isn't quite right, the grid's not right, the shape, the layout, the circulation's not right. You're left with a dead space, you don't quite know what to do it. And suddenly it's not necessarily just a design challenge, it could be a leasing opportunity where you find a use for that space, which nobody else has done before. So the inspiration kind of comes out of the fault, it comes out of the circumstance. And that's what I kind of find interesting in terms of the application of retail ideas to problems per se.
So every mall developer wants to, give a brief that I want an innovative design. And that's the brief given to every design firm. But, what is that innovation that one is really looking for? Sometimes you miss the opportunity when it is presented to you. But when you notice that somebody else has executed it, you tend to recognize it even more. So can you, Anup, starting with you, can you share with us a couple of examples of innovation? Maybe out of not limited to your own center, but outside, that you would like to share with the audience.
First, let me tell you, apart from being a mall developer and owner of World Trade Park, my core business is architecture. And I am basically an architect. And we're doing projects around the globe. I would certainly elaborate on first what's the inspiration and then come to this. I have, my experiences about the mall in particular. Whenever we are trying to do something new, whenever we are trying to do something unique for a city, we always try and get something which our people or our society has not experienced and give them something which they will experience fresh. So the design has to have that freshness in it. My experiments, for example, when I was designing World Trade Park in Jaipur, I thought the malls around the globe are quite similar in design, and when you walk into those malls, you feel it's more brand possessive, not the mall has a very little contribution in it. It is the interior of the store and the tenants which are actually contributing to the aesthetics. But malls used to very seldomly contribute to create an environment as a whole. So the first thing which I thought was that let me create a place which could actually create an environment of its own. And then relate a beautiful synergy between the function and design. So I designed the mall not on a single interiors, but designed into various streets. It's a very small example, like when I was designing this place where leather and denim was being sold, where most of the brands were related to footwear, leather and this. So I created a Mexican street with wooden interiors. So the interior of my mall, which I designed, was quite akin to the product selling. So there was an energy which we developed between the product and interior relationship. So it is a wholesome experience. The design and the business is a wholesome experience. You have to create a 360-degree effect on a person who's coming to you so that the interior also contributes into the business activity. So this is what we experimented. So in that fashion, we developed various designs into a mall. It was not a universal design mall. So every street was created with the fact that how it contributes to the product and whether it is able to create the environment for the product or not. So we did a Roman street, we did an Oxford street, we did a pyramid Egyptian street, we did various cultures we brought in and created an environment which was quite similar to the product. This experiment was very successful. It gave an opportunity to the visitor not to feel boredom. Every place when it used to go to the mall, it used to have a sense of energy coming to him. Because design is one powerful tool which can give energy to any visitor. And if you're able to pep up the energy of a customer inside your mall, your sales are going to be good. So it's both ways, for the mall developer and for the designer, this justice is done. And even other projects, we're having a lot of such experiments. We are trying to do, for example, you have a shopping mall inside water. We are coming with some three-dimensional effects. We're developing a food restaurant in which around the world where only walls with water and ocean life was developed, we created hemispheres in which we are having 360-degree effect on sitting inside an ocean and having your lunch and dinner. So new innovations we're trying to do. We experimented a unique proposition of creating a 20,000 square feet roof, creating a single video image on it by 24 projectors. Now you can create different dynamics environment come into it, because design is not related to statics only. So we introduced the concept of dynamics, and whenever anything is kinetic and changing atmosphere, people feel fresh. So end of the day, my concept of designing into is based on the 5 senses. If I am able to justify, you have 5 senses in you. The moment you enter into the mall, your engineering design should give you the right temperature. Your aroma of the mall should be very good. So we introduced aroma engineering. In our AHUs, we introduced the fragrance system. Your look and feel for the eyes, your other third sense, your feeling should be very aesthetic and pleasant to you. So all the senses have to be justified. Your sense of space, the music inside the mall, everything contributes to design. So whatever a human being can acquire from the world or nature through his 5 senses, if a designer is able to justify all that, it can create a miracle.
Sanjeev, what are your couple of examples that you'd like to share with us?
First of all, thank God I'm a bean counter and not a creative guy. So I didn't have anything to do with the design. I just execute whatever the guys come up with. But coming to that, since we work for CSC Properties and we're a lighting company, we engaged the designers who did it were RTKL. And this was their first project in India. And the lighting consultant was Bliss Fassman. And I cannot explain to you what we've done. You've actually got to come and see it for yourself. And I believe that we've created something which is unique, which RTKL blended with their design of Forest on Fire with Bliss Fassman putting lighting, has done something very, very unique with the design. So as what the gentleman said, you know, it gives you that sense. Our malls has got a very humane touch. It doesn't have sharp corners. And I think that's how the interiors are going to move. But more importantly, I still believe that in the end of the day, it's the customer and the feel that they get into it. And that's the best what, you know, we can execute.
Basically, like the last session, the speaker was telling, we are all aiming to improve the gross turnover of the mall. And for that, essentially, we should understand the customer base which is coming into the mall and the needs or aspirations of that community, from where we are getting the real sale and what they are looking for. Over a period of time, most of the mall most of the malls in the similar timing, it looks like same. Even we forget where we are. If you are going so many malls, designs are more or less same, brands are same, and functioning it's almost similar wherever city you are gone. Now it is a time to change and add that something else, or that, of course, that local flavor. We have to bring some local flavors into the malls, be it in the design style, the style of people's living in that area, or the way they behave. Apart from that, to bring more and more people, like some other speakers also was telling, we have to think to add some unconventional, or which was the factors which are not earlier in the part of the mall, like some sports facilities or some gathering, We basically, last so many years, we were going with the programs or events in the malls. Some performing events or something like that. Apart from that, now we have to think to include some other activities which bring people on a regular basis to the mall and develop a connect between the mall and the community.
Pramod, you've got 5 malls in your group. So if you have to bring about 2 changes to deliver innovative design, what would those 2 changes be?
Often I can't tell you what changes I would be able to bring, I'll be very honest. Like recently what we did, like in Raipur, which is, tropically very, very hot place at the moment, we opened a mall almost 14 months back. The temperature was quite high there. So we created a biophilic design, wherein in 13 acres, the gross leasable space is only 400,000 square feet. And we have put almost 480 trees, 22 species of birds are there, nests are being formed. We have given a lot of 2-3 large water bodies. So that way, that is able to acclimatize, the customers, and customers are able to spend time. That has been a good journey. However, we still felt that it was not, the temperature difference with the ambient was not high. So we have tried to add, even in the open mall, we have tried to, reduce the temperature by adding some more air conditioning in it. Because ultimately, we are not wanting to add so much of power guzzler, not because it is a huge cost to the retailers, but because we feel that sustainability can be given even in this open format. That's what we have done. Plus, second part which we do in all our malls is that we create some kind of unpredictability, because we feel that if everything is predictable, as he was mentioning that every mall looks the same, and if you leave one person with the he won't be able to tell you which mall he's in, and because the retailers are also common. So in all our malls, there is some kind of, unpredictability. There is we feel that there is some signs of exploration. You feel happy to explore, and in turn, more shopping happens, and the customer tends to spend more time in our malls.
So let me just twist the discussion a bit. Now, we've been speaking as developers, designers, mall asset managers, but let's flip it and say, look at ourselves as a customer when we are visiting the mall. So what is that experience that you go through as a customer when you tend to notice an innovation in design? What is it that impacts you, and what is the kind of innovation that you tend to notice as a customer?
One thing I would like to add here in our malls, like most of our malls are having multiple entry and exits, which was designed to give the look and feel, because it was not supposed to be a closed format. We wanted to be a part of the society. With these threats, which we all see, every time we see a lot of threats, and then we had to close several gates, for the purpose of security and safety. That is something which has, been slightly, it has impacted to some extent the circulation of the malls. What I would like to change as a customer visiting these malls would be the overall navigation from parking to this shopping area. That is what I would like to change, because the overall experience has not been good in most of the malls, barring few.
Anup, what is your view? As a customer, not only your mall, I'm saying as a customer, as a mall shopper, you travel across the world, across the country. When you go to a mall, you notice an innovation. What is the impact of that innovation on you? Do you think that it has just an emotional impact on you? It goes beyond emotional, from intangible to a tangible impact that makes you shop. And what is that kind of innovation that has hit you actually?
As a customer, if you visit and see some innovation, see, you are forced to think something. And whenever somebody is in thought process is in a very fertile mode. So when you come and see some innovation, maybe you visit a mall, you have a beautiful water fountain. You visit some other street in the mall or some other arena, you'll find some nice cluster of green there, which has been developed in a different way. Your moving paths have been designed in a different way. So when, as a customer, somebody comes the impact which is coming on a customer is that he is being given a very positive energy. Because he's in a thinking mode that fine, this is something good, he'll relate himself to that place. And when a person starts relating himself to that place, business happens. You know, people I've seen will go and take photographs, they will stand in front of those innovations, register them as their memories, and link themselves. So there is mental association which is taking place. So as a customer, if I'm mentally associated with the place, it creates a positive impact on me to spend money there, to participate in the activities there. So innovations do have, and nowadays technology is the most important thing. Because convenience and technology is what governs your experience. So when you, right from, as you said, right, when you enter into a parking, the way you get out of the parking, the washrooms which you are using, everything has a very comprehensive effect on you. And if you find that something is different, not in a league, you try and develop an appreciation for the place. And when you try and develop an appreciation for the place, the credibility of the tenants automatically comes up front. Because the moment, what does a design do or innovation do? It will create a positive impact in your mind, and you will be able to develop a respect and appreciation for that place. So the people who are present as tenants there would draw benefit out of it. So you have more energy to be there, you spend more time there. If there are innovative places, your time spending will increase, your spending power will increase there.
Sanjeev, what are your views on that? As a customer, not in your mall.
As a customer, I hate shopping, so, you know, it's a terrible job to be running shopping centers when you really hate shopping. But, you know, we are a very ghettoized country. We like to live on top of each other. Firstly, I will never build a mall in the city. If I ever had a chance, I would take it out. And I think building vertical malls, because that's the challenge we have in our cities, I just don't like them. I like flat malls. I don't like going up floors, but that is my personal choice. I have to work with only vertical spaces, and I'm happy to say I'm very happy to work with them because it pays my salary. But apart from that, that's a joke, but yes, I think that's the challenge. If I had to get out, I would like to work with flatter spaces rather than vertical ones.
Shivani, what is your view as a shopper? What is the impact of innovation on you as a shopper, emotionally and tangibly?
I feel that places that have a space in the center, a place to breathe, or a place for pop-up markets or little trade fairs or farmers markets, or, you know, things that are local. You're surrounded by all these global brands, but you do want things that keep changing. So I would like to see much more of that in malls.
Okay, Jeremy, coming to you, you worked across the few markets, and
Yes.
where do you think India is today in the innovation curve?
Okay, could I come back to that? Because your last question I thought was a lot of fun, and I'm obliged as a designer to kind of make sense of customers. But if I can be a customer for a moment, I'm allowed to be completely quixotic and inconsistent and totally dictated by my mood and whim at any one moment. So if you'll allow me to be a customer for a second. As a man, I'm not particularly keen on shopping as well. So if I'm buying some football boots, I like the layout to be intuitive. I like to be able to go very quickly to where I want to go. There's a selection of 10. I can make my choice. I can go away and I can play football. If I'm going out with my wife, I like to make sure that it caters for her, and so the focus becomes on her. And while she's doing her thing, I like places to escape from while she's being entertained herself. Or one of the big innovations, it's not terribly innovative now, but one of the things as a parent, when I came to first discover many years ago, IKEA. IKEA had this beautiful idea that they create this children's zone where you can park your 3 children for an hour, and the parents you can escape. And so you can see through those three contrasts of me being in different moods, I'm three entirely different people. And I think this is one of the challenges, coming back to being a designer, about why it's so difficult for all of us, actually. To answer your first question, the differences, as I understood it, between different markets and so forth. There are some overriding characteristics which you can see now across the world in terms of where customers and emerging customers are coming from. But the interesting thing comes all about the local specific characteristics of how it manifests. If you tie that to innovation, one of the kind of most innovative things I've seen recently, there's a developer, I don't know if you're familiar with them, called K11. They've understood specifically within the Chinese market that the Chinese consumer, especially in urban environments, has gone so rapidly through a transition of new wealth and new money and how they manifest their lifestyle. And they're aspiring to something else other than just showing luxury goods and the accumulation of luxury and high-value items. And so they've moved their mall positioning now into the idea of having the mall as an art gallery, where actually the art isn't just elements within the gallery. The art gallery in the interior in itself creates art environment. So it's quite interesting how the speed of the evolution in that particular market has moved on. In contrast, say perhaps my perception of India, and I'd confess to being quite new really in my understanding of the market, but it seems to be very differentiated. There's no overriding consistency. And I think that's a danger about the international globalization of design, is that you tend to see one country and think that's sort of, we have solutions for China, we have solutions for India. And my experience of India is it's very, I used the word the other day, very patchy. There are some very advanced consumers and there are some less advanced consumers, and it doesn't seem to be terribly consistent.
Okay. Pramod, your view on that? Where are we on the innovation curve in India?
In terms of innovation, I told you about the biophilic design only, which we did in Raipur. That was a good innovation and a very big, bold step to be taken at that point of time. That's what we did. And how we are different in terms of innovation is this open spaces which we do, and we have been consistently doing. And we have seen the rewards in terms of, if you really visit all our malls, the stabilization period is the fastest, number one. Number two, the revenue per square feet is really good for the consumers. We feel that the retailers are happy. Like City Center Salt Lake has been a success story, we all know that. Even City Center Newtown, when we opened, it was in a very, very, area where there was nothing which was developed, including the infrastructure. In fact, we not only stabilized, we further expanded and leased out the space. Similarly, in Siliguri, we have done the same thing. We are turning around all these malls which we envisaged in 2007-8, and the journey has been very, very fulfilling, I can say that.
Fantastic. That's a great discussion. I think if anybody in the audience has any questions to ask, we'll throw it open to you. Not a question there. So I think they've understood the concept of design and innovation very well. But thank you very much for a fantastic discussion to the group, and I think we learned a lot today. We realized that design innovation can mean a lot of things. It's just not about making a design, but also, we have a question there.
Oh, hello. Yeah, hi, this is Deepesh. I'm a developer from Bhopal. So I've got a question for Mr. Pramod actually. So my question is that there are basically two things which you told me didn't go as per your plan. One is the ambient temperature which you wanted to reduce, and your entry and exit. So now looking back, what do you think you could have done at the initial design stage? Do you think it is the designer's fault that it was not able to guide you? Or do you think it is you could not envisage at that point behind that how you could have done it better if you build the next mall, or what could have been changed at the design point of view? Where did you lack so that you could not achieve these two aspects?
I think we thought that we would be, this biophilic design would be able to manage this temperature. Somehow we could not see that the temperature difference would be that high, because there was no empirical data to prove all that. Finally, we have been able to crack it with little bit of changes. So that way, finally, we are hopefully we are happy now.
May I just say something?
I just want to share with you that I believe in an 80-20 rule. 80% of the things you design for will work. 20% has to evolve. If you don't, a shopping center is going to stay the same. No designer, no architect can ever plan for anything which is going to work 100%. And that is what is very important and is the challenge. When things don't work, how do you convert it? How do you get it to work and make that profitable? Remember, I really believe that that 20% is actually going to be your profit. Because if you can turn that around, I think you've done a marvelous job. And nobody can think for everything. So a year later, you might find one section not doing well. How do you change it? What do you bring in it? Maybe you have to bring a coffee shop. Maybe you have to bring an art gallery. I don't know. But that's the creative part, I think, that we must always keep open.
I think that's it. Thank you very much to all our panelists for this wonderful discussion.